Hello everyone, welcome back to Noteworthy ENT. In this lecture, anatomy of nasopharynx will be discussed. A little bit about the pharynx first. This pharynx is a funnel-shaped fibromuscular tube extending from the skull base to the level of upper end of esophagus. Now coming to this diagram, we can see this is the pharynx and this extends from the skull base to the level of C6 vertebra, lower border of C6 vertebra. At this level, the pharynx continues inferiorly as the esophagus. Now, this pharynx is divided into three parts depending on the structures anterior to them. So, the uppermost part is known as the nasopharynx as it lies behind the nasal cavity, and below it lies the oropharynx as it lies posterior to the oral cavity, and the inferior most part is the laryngopharynx or the hypopharynx lying posterior to the larynx. Now this pharynx, it contains both the air passage and the food passage. So how do they communicate with each other? We'll see with this diagram. So in the green color is shown the air passage. So air enters from the nasal cavity, then goes to the nasopharynx, oropharynx, and then into the larynx and subsequently into the trachea and the lungs. Whereas the food enters through the oral cavity into the oropharynx and then it goes posteriorly into the hypopharynx and inferiorly into the esophagus. So this oropharynx is the area where both the air and the food passage they cross each other. Now coming to today's topic, that is the nasopharynx. So as I've already told, it lies behind the nasal cavity, bounded superiorly by the basisphenoid and the basiocciput. Now it is bounded inferiorly by the soft palate anteriorly, and this floor is deficient posteriorly. This is known as the nasopharyngeal isthmus, and through this isthmus the nasopharynx communicates with the oropharynx. Anteriorly it is communicating with the nasal cavities through the posterior choana, and posteriorly it is bounded mainly by the C1 vertebra, which is covered by the prevertebral musculature and the fascia. Now the lateral wall, it has a few important structures. Now the lateral wall, this lateral wall has a few important structures, namely the opening of eustachian tube, torus tuberis, and fossa of Rosenmuller. Now what are these structures? We'll see in these diagrams. So the nasopharyngeal opening of the eustachian tube, it lies around 1.25 centimeters posterior to the inferior turbinate. This is the endoscopic picture of the eustachian tube opening, and this is covered superiorly and posteriorly by an elevation, and this elevation is known as the torus tuberis. This is caused by the underlying cartilage, and above and behind this torus tuberis lies a depression, and this depression is known as fossa of Rosenmuller. Now this fossa of Rosenmuller is important as it is the most common site of carcinoma of nasopharynx. So three important structures: the eustachian tube opening, torus tuberis, and the fossa of Rosenmuller. Now coming to the contents of the nasopharynx, the most important being the nasopharyngeal tonsil or the adenoid. This is a subepithelial collection of lymphoid tissue at the junction of roof and posterior wall of the nasopharynx. And as with all the lymphatic tissues in the body, it increases in size up to 5 to 6 years of age and then starts regressing gradually and by the age of 18 to 20 years, it usually regresses completely. Now, in this endoscopic picture, you can see this is the picture of the left nasal cavity, this being the nasal septum, this being the torus tubaris and the eustachian tube opening area, and this is the lymphoid tissue known as adenoid. So, adenoid will be a separate lecture. We'll discuss the pathologies of adenoid in that lecture. Another structure that is the nasopharyngeal bursa or the bursa of Luschka. It is an epithelial-lined median recess which extends from the mucosa of pharynx to the periosteum of base occiput, and it represents the attachment of notochord to the pharyngeal endoderm during embryonic life. This tract it usually gets obliterated in most of the individuals, but in some people it can persist. And if it persists, it has propensity to get obstructed. And when it gets obstructed, it is known as Tonwald's cyst. And this cyst is usually asymptomatic. However, if the cyst enlarges in size, there are higher chances of it being symptomatic. And when it becomes infected, the term Tonwald's disease is used. As you can see in this CT scan, this is a axial section, this being the nasopharynx, and you can see there is a recess in the midline extending posteriorly. So this is the nasopharyngeal bursa. Now a little bit about Tonwald's disease. When symptomatic, the patient complains of postnasal discharge, headache, halitosis, that is foul smell from the oral cavity, stiffness of the cervical muscles, or there may be dysfunction of the eustachian tube causing fullness in the ear. Now, as you can see in this endoscopic picture, there is a cyst at the position of the nasopharyngeal bursa. So, this is a Tonwald's cyst. And when this becomes infected, this is known as Tonwald's disease. So, in this case, we do marsupialization of the cyst. Now, another structure important from embryological point of view, that is Rathke's pouch. So this pouch is an evagination of the roof of the developing mouth in front of the buccopharyngeal membrane, and this gives rise to the anterior pituitary gland. Now, as you can see in this diagram, this is the oral ectoderm with this being the Rathke's pouch, and this forms the anterior pituitary gland. Now, as you can see, it loses its connection to the pharynx eventually. However, this connection may persist and this may form the Rathke's cleft. And this Rathke's cleft may lead to the formation of Rathke's cleft cyst or a craniopharyngioma. Now we'll see what are these in these pictures. So this on the left is the picture of Rathke's cleft cyst. And as you can see, there is a homogeneous shadow in the cellar area, this being the Rathke's cleft cyst. Whereas in this diagram, in a similar position, there is calcification present. And this calcification is suggestive of craniopharyngioma. However, this calcification may not be present in all the cases. A little bit about the pharyngeal wall. So the pharyngeal wall consists of four layers. From in to out, they are the mucous membrane layer, then the pharyngobasilar fascia, muscular layer, and the outermost being the buccopharyngeal fascia. Now, the epithelial lining of the nasal cavity is same as that of the nasopharynx. So, the nasopharynx is lined by pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Now there is a space between the skull base and the upper end of this superior constrictor muscle, and this space is known as sinus of Morgagni. And a few important structures they pass through this sinus, and they are the eustachian tube, the levator and the tensor villi palatini muscles, and the ascending palatine artery, which is a branch of facial artery. Now, Passavant's ridge is another important structure in the nasopharynx. So, it is a mucosal ridge formed by the fibers of palatopharyngeus. Now, this palatopharyngeus, it forms the, or rather, it encircles the posterior and lateral walls of the nasopharyngeal isthmus, and it causes an elevation in this area, and this is known as the Passavant's ridge. Now, why is this ridge important? Because when we swallow, this soft palate it contracts and it comes in contact with this passavant's ridge, thus closing off this nasopharyngeal isthmus and preventing the food from entering the nasopharynx. Lastly, the lymphatic drainage of the nasopharynx. It has extensive lymphatics which drain to the both sides of the neck. The first echelon of lymphatic drainage is the retropharyngeal lymph nodes. The lateral group of retropharyngeal lymph nodes are also known as nodes of Rouvier. From then on, the lymphatic drainage continues to the upper jugular nodes and the upper posterior triangle lymph nodes. And from there on, it goes into the lower neck in a stepwise fashion. So, firstly, the retropharyngeal lymph nodes, then the upper jugular and the upper posterior triangle lymph nodes, and then they continue into the lower neck. Now, this is important because in case of carcinoma nasopharynx, neck swelling, that is the secondaries in the neck, may be the first presentation. So, we have to know about this lymphatic drainage. Now, this completes the anatomy of nasopharynx. Kindly leave your feedback or any recommendation in the comment section. And if you found this video helpful, please support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. Thank you.